Hello, everyone, and welcome to Let's Be Neighbors. This is a series where we engage as a community and connect you with local experts on topics that are important to you. Today, we are talking about AI and the importance, the potential, and all of the multifaceted things that are surrounding artificial intelligence. And we have some wonderful experts lined up. And today, we are very happy to have Jamie Dwyer, who is the instructional and I've lost already. Anyway, she is a librarian at Salt Lake Community College, and she's been teaching students about AI and how to incorporate it, job skills, and also just really delving into the potential and this very constantly evolving art form, technology, and how it's shaping and changing things at a very rapid pace. So we are going to be talking about how to spot AI and how to have information literacy and just general knowledge about what AI is, and how it works in our lives. So we will go straight away and say, take it away, Jamie.
Thank you, Heather. Okay, so yeah, let's get going. I have some tips, some tools, and some takeaways, mostly focused on determining if something is an image is AI generated. We have a short amount of time, and images are kind of easiest to see in this format, so we'll go with that. A few disclaimers about me. I'm a very interested librarian in this topic. There's a lot of overlap with information literacy, which we'll get to in a couple minutes here. But the world of AI is really expansive and it moves really quickly. So keeping up to date with this technology is really hard and nearly impossible. If you're seeing this, 6 months from when we record this, it might be outdated. And then the opinions I express today are my own. So when we're talking about content created by artificial intelligence, we're not thinking about like navigation apps that help you avoid traffic jams, Netflix recommendations to help you find new shows that Netflix thinks you will like. We're thinking more about generative AI tools who generate content. The tools generate the content, right? Based on human prompts. So things like chatbots where you can ask them to, write me an essay on the 19th Amendment and it spits out an essay on the 19th Amendment, or other media, like I want an image of me riding a unicorn on top of a rainbow, right? Like there's lots of cool tools out there and lots of content that can be created. So trying to think about if it's AI generated or not and what the implications of that might be. There's a definition of information literacy up here. I do work closely with a lot of students and faculty at Salt Lake Community College on information literacy. And I like to break it down as like how we're engaging ethically and critically with information, right? A big piece of that is evaluating, which we're focusing on for today. How do we know which sources to trust and why? And a big piece of that is this image real? Or was it really created by AI? So anytime I talk about evaluation, I like to refer to Mike Caulfield's 4 moves, the SIFT acronym. I'll go through it really quickly, but it's something that if you wanted to search it online, there's a lot more detail and some examples of how you could apply it. So if we're thinking about like maybe an image that we see on a news story, the first step is to stop and just kind of figure out how you're reacting to this image and maybe why that is. If you're having a really positive reaction, is it because it's something you want to believe that happened or that someone said or someone did? Are you having a negative reaction because it's like, ooh, I'm not a fan of that person. I don't believe that this happened. So from that stop, that pause, you would go investigate the source. Where is this information coming from? What do the information providers tell you about themselves and what do others say about them? So, just a quick online search will tell you if there's a Wikipedia page on this source, that can be a nice starting point. Go learn more about the author if you can, or the content creator. And then the next step is really finding better coverage. And sometimes we call this reading laterally, where instead of sticking in the same to the same source, you're seeing like this one article or this one image, and that's all you're going to look at for that event or that quote or that whatever you're looking at, right? Try to find other sources that also talk about it, and a lot of times you might find a better source. So just getting some lateral reading, look across multiple sources when you have an opportunity to do that, especially when you're not sure if something is real or not. And then tracing claims, quotes, and media back to the original source is also really important. I like to think about this in terms of the game of telephone, where you like whisper something around a circle, and it's very rarely the same thing that the first person who came up with whatever you're whispering said. It usually gets warped and shifted and changed by the end. And that's kind of how we think about information sometimes. If we're not looking at the original source, like how has someone maybe interpreted this differently or changed it a little bit by the time I'm seeing it? So, when we're thinking about images that we might be seeing as an example that were created by AI or not, like what does that tell us about that information and how it was created, and how do I want to interpret it? How do I want to believe if it's credible or not? So here are some tools. That's just like a really quick overview of how some of this connects to information literacy. Let's think about like two big clues. I've kind of lumped lots of little things together to these two big ideas to determine if like an image was created by AI. So the first one, all the tips in this first one are just come around to thinking like, is this too perfect, right? Does this reflect something that is wishful thinking? Like myself writing a unicorn on a rainbow, right? That's wishful thinking. Um, a lot of these are harder than that, but it looks too good to be true. There's perfect lighting, there's perfect focus, happy smiles, hyper filtered, like just really like Instagram filters, but times 1,000, right? It just looks really crisp, really perfect, which is not the reality of a lot of us. Something also might seem off or unnatural. So this is the other big clue is like, okay, like everything seems perfect, but I know there's awesome photographers out there. They can make it look really good, right? Can photographers really like adjust like eyes to make them look perfect? They can, but AI is not great at eyes and ears right now. AI sometimes, if you look at fingers, little details on people, their accessories, their fingernails, do the fingernail lengths match? Are they all painted the same color, right? If you ask an AI generator to put a specific person in an image, sometimes it'll put the person in the foreground and the background. Sometimes the background has some weird pixelation or like people look kind of blurry, like they're like walking and it didn't quite capture it perfectly. So zoom in to check the details because that can really give you clues. So let's look at just a couple examples quickly. Pause your recording if you would like to look at these more closely. I'm going to go to the next slide to show you which one of these is AI generated. It's a brown Highland cow in a field of flowers. This comes from a PC Magazine quiz that I took. This one's the AI generated image. There appears to be an extra horn on the cow. There's a watermark in the bottom right that's a crayon, which is the symbol of the tool that was used to create this image. And then just looking at it, it just looks perfect, right? Like it's just like, oh, that's an ideal image of what a Highland cow would look like in a field of flowers. Here's the second one. Again, pause if you want to look through this more closely. One of these is a photograph of Mark Zuckerberg. The other is AI generated. Here's the AI generated one. This one I feel like was a little trickier because like, at first I wanted to look at the ears and then the ears kind of matched across the two photos, right? But to me, the biggest red flag in this one was that there's a hand by the left hand. There's like some warping in the paint on the street. So that's kind of like a glitchy thing that's happening, right? The eyes look kind of off as well. It's kind of hyper focused again, right? There's like lots of shadows in the background, but not really like on their face. So again, a lot of these things, professional photographers, artists can tweak and really adapt photos. People have been faking photos and making, changing photos since the beginning of photography, right? But what's kind of creepy about AI is how quickly it can do these things. So that's why, and the issues that they have are a little bit different because it's computer generated. So beyond your own eyesight, you can try things like reverse image searching, which is where you plug an image into a reverse image searching tool and it'll try to find it on the internet for you and try to identify where it originated. Generative AI image identifiers are also out there where you provide the image that you want to check on, and it will tell you, like, based on all of my training, I will give this a 99% chance that this is AI generated, or like a 5% chance, which means it would probably be human. There's also text AI checkers. Nothing's perfect. I've had some of these text AI checkers say that my own writing was AI generated and not catch AI generated writing. So it's kind of like a combination of tools that you can use. You can use your own insight. You can see if someone else has already looked into this image, and use some of these tools to try to determine if it was AI or not. So I would encourage some next steps here. Keep learning about AI, maybe take one of those AI quizzes to see if you can spot the differences. I think it's a lot easier when there's like two similar images next to each other. When I get into trouble is when I'm just looking at a single image. I'm like, oh, hold on, I need to really think about this. Maybe try creating something with an AI tool or watch someone do it on YouTube. You don't necessarily have to create accounts to all these tools to see how they work. There's tons of YouTube videos on this. And then, as always, like, think before you create and you share these things. I'm going to leave it at that. There's some more resources on this website, but let's see if there's any questions.
Thank you so much, Jamie. That was so fascinating, and it's evolving, and it's tricky, but that was actually a really good set of tools of just how to critically think information literacy. That's the big thing with libraries. We all want people to be informed and be able to navigate the world feeling empowered. And so this was fantastic. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
We do have some questions that we have from our community that have come in. Just as a heads up of how we do it is we have our website on Let's Be Neighbors at thecountylibrary.org, and you can submit your questions early, and then they can be as part of our recordings for this. So you are welcome to talk directly with our experts. So just our little plug for future episodes. Diving in, one of the questions we had is just a small one. It's just a big over-encompassing. Why did we invent AI?
You know, yeah, AI was invented by humans, right? It's not like this technology that just sprung up out of nowhere. So remembering, like, we did this to ourselves, right? And I think it's not necessarily a bad thing. We're thinking about, like, how can we automate, how can we offload some tasks that humans do, so that we can free up our time and our mental energy for other things. That's kind of how I'm thinking of it, right? We're trying to just make our lives easier, essentially, and free up our headspace and some of our physical energy as well to do other things.
And then do you think that there's been unintended consequences because of it? Because it's been a very rapid thing. Like AI has been around, as you were saying, for like Netflix recommendations, autofill on our computers and mobile devices. There has been AI quite around for a while, but again, the distinction between generative AI, where it's creating original content or new content from pre-assembled parts, is quite new, and it's taking the world by storm. And so do you think that there's been some wild cards in the development of AI as it is evolving quickly?
Absolutely. I think the way these things they they learn or they adapt is by repeated use, right? For repeated exposure to their environments. And so I think, especially when these tools got released to a broader audience and people really just started picking them up and trying to use them and trying to hack them and trying to break them and all these different things, like, these tools, the more we use them, the more they're going to adapt. So there's kind of a double-edged sword there. I also think it was about a year ago, I think, when some of the big, like, tech companies were saying, hold on, like, let's pause for a minute. We're not really sure what the ramifications of all of these new technologies are, and they're spreading so quickly. And there's some thought that maybe they were saying, like, wait, we don't have a strong enough like horse in this race yet. Like let us develop our own. But also I think there's some genuine concern. Like these generative AI tools are powerful, and they're gonna behave based on how we are interacting with them. So there's always going to be some misuse, and there's always going to be some like honest use, and we'll just have to navigate that as it happens.
Very true indeed. All right, maybe this next question might even be tying into it. And there's an interesting caveat because the person who submitted this admitted that it was written by ChatGPT, which is one of the generative AI tools. And so, quote, how does reinforcement learning contribute to the advancement of artificial intelligence, and what are its key challenges and potential applications?
Yeah, so again, and I feel like reinforcement learning is how humans learn as well. Like the more we do something, the more we figure out like, all right, this is how I want to try it next time, right? Like I want to do something different next time. So I think, you know, there's a lot of benefits to AI, to generative AI. It is these tools are learning um, how we are wanting to use them, and so um, it's kind of up to us how we're gonna guide those next moves, right? So if you're really invested in these tools, like start playing with them, start using them, start sharing them more broadly. Like, how do you want to see these tools? Because they're learning based on us. Um, and, you know, there's of course ramifications with that. The people who are using these tools to maybe make poor choices, maybe trying to hack the tools, right? Like we won't know how to break them unless someone breaks them. So again, there's like some good and bad to all of it. And yeah, and using ChatGPT, I use ChatGPT all the time to write some questions and do brainstorming. It's a great resource. But it's usually not like my end point, and I think that's important too. Like it's a tool, it's not gonna tell me how to live my life, right?
Yes. All right. We have another question on the creative element, since we're kind of into catching and discerning the AI. There is a question about just creative. It's branching into all areas of the arts, and so question being with artists suing AI companies for copyright infringement, and there aren't really any laws currently to protect the wealth of information that they've learned through generation, and they learned through large scale dumping of information, and but that had to come from original sources and hasn't been acknowledged or reimbursed or anything like that. And so so why the question is, why can't these AI companies ask permission and or pay the people they are stealing from?
Um, they certainly can ask permission and provide payments. They are not, and I think that's the issue. There is actually, I think just last week, I want to say, so sometime in January of 2024, um, the Supreme Court agreed to hear a case about copyright and AI tools. So that's something to put on your radar to kind of check in on, because they are going to weigh in on both the training sets, the training data that these tools are using, as well as the creations that are coming out of them. Like who's going to be held accountable or responsible or given copyright protections to when we're creating content using these AI generators. So that I will be watching that pretty closely, because I'm really interested to see how the Supreme Court's going to weigh in.
That is fascinating. That is really good to know. So thank you for being on the cutting edge of something that, again, this may not be relevant in 6 months, but right now that's great. So
Yeah.
is there any other last thoughts you have on things you want to say about AI in general, and or just yeah, any last thoughts before we conclude this episode for now?
Yeah, I think like for librarians, there's some joke going around, or has been going around forever, like in my field, librarians, we've had to kind of respond to all these new technologies over the years, right? And like every 10 years or so, it's like, oh, do we still need librarians? I strongly feel the answer is yes, because there's always going to be change. There's always going to be flexibility needed in a lot of our roles, and just as humans, right? We can't always predict the future. There's a lot of plot twists. There's a lot of unexpected twists and turns. So AI is here. It's not going anywhere. But I think the more we can learn about it, the more we get more familiar with at least understanding it, then we can kind of make some more informed choices and hopefully not live in fear of it.
Excellent. And thank you for the SIFT and information literacy on how to spot things, but also just in general, like sorting through information and seeing laterally and getting a wider view of the world in general. That's one of the big things we really want to give our community in the Let's Be Neighbors series is something they can take away to empower them. So not only have you given them how to discern different things in AI or the still image specifically, but also in a wider scope of information in general, but especially with AI. So thank you for giving them those tools as a librarian and community member. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.